Everyone feels lonely sometimes. It's part of the human experience. But if you're feeling persistently lonely and isolated in a way that it feels like it's a defining theme in your life, and or if you experience tension or pain in your neck, shoulders, and low back, then there is a very real way to work with the body to release this emotional pattern. Now, this may seem a little disjointed at first, but the mind-body connection means that mobility restrictions that you feel in your body actually correspond to certain emotional themes. We have distinct nerve bundles located at certain portions of our spine that are connected to particular emotional themes that we experience in everyday life. So if you're experiencing the kind of loneliness where on the one hand, you're constantly seeking relationships no matter the quality, or on the other hand, you're so disillusioned with relationships, romantic or platonic, that you've given up on them altogether, then you may have one of the most common movement restrictions that, despite it being so widespread, actually has a very straightforward solution. And when you address this mobility restriction, you'll start to experience a greater sense of wholeness and an open-heartedness that can allow you to develop and sustain healthy relationships. I'm Karina, I'm a health and movement coach, and welcome to my channel where we discuss practical ways to elevate our physical and emotional wellness from a mind, body, soul perspective. The movement restriction that may be contributing to your feeling of loneliness or disconnection is hyperkyphosis. And this is one of the most common movement restrictions that I see all the time when working with clients. And it's something that I used to struggle with as well, especially having scoliosis. And the reason why this is so common is because our modern lifestyle prompts us to be constantly hunched over our laptops and our phones for a majority of the day. And when these hunched shoulders and this rounded back become a chronic pattern, it contributes to our emotional state, to where we see the world from the lens of someone who is either closed off on the one hand, or on the other hand, is constantly seeking love outside of themselves, maybe ending up in codependent relationships. These are two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, the I can't trust anyone, no one understands me paradigm, which is what I used to come from. And then on the other hand, the I always need to have someone around in order to feel comfortable with myself. Traditional Chinese medicine has this way of addressing the mind-body connection head on. And it's a framework that I really appreciate drawing upon because it's very relevant. And TCM, the pericardium, which is the membrane that holds the heart, is associated with the level of openness in the heart space energetically. And with hyperkyphosis, with an overly rounded back, the pericardium is in a more constricted position. And as we start to open up the chest space physically, all of those themes related to the heart energy, like having healthy relationships, giving and receiving love, having a sense of love for ourselves, all of these start to emerge. But if we simply try to open up our chest from an overly rounded position immediately, we are not addressing the underlying mobility restrictions and muscular imbalances that are at play. And that means that we're going to compensate in other areas of the body. So we're not genuinely opening up the heart space in a way that's going to give us the benefits that we just described. Specifically, when we try to open up the chest from an overly rounded position, what often ends up happening is we start to flare the rib cage as well. This is a really common compensation for a lack of shoulder mobility and mid-back strength that is compounded over time as a result of this hyperkyphotic pattern. Ideally, when we're opening up the chest, we want to keep those ribs knitted down into the abdomen. But a lot of people who've had a hyperkyphotic pattern for a long time aren't yet able to access this level of mobility. So we want to work on two things first. The first step is to strengthen the mid-back, the muscles around the rib cage. This is where a majority of our postural support is going to come from. And with hyperkyphosis, the ribs are actually pushed forward so that you have a really strong trapezius and your upper lats are strong, but your lower lats, your serratus, and your intercostal muscles, the muscles that are directly around the rib cage, are all a lot weaker. And so we want to strengthen those muscles in order to find that postural support with these particular exercises. Chest flies with our elbows slightly bent. Another one is front raises. These are our weights-based exercises, but if you don't have weights or you don't want to use them, you can also do a resistance band-based exercise that strengthens the mid-back like this one. And then in addition to doing these exercises every day or every other day, you also want to be mindful of how you're using your body the rest of the day. As you're walking around, whenever you notice that those low ribs are being pushed forward, try to stack your rib cage like a canister so that it's supporting your shoulders. And as you do this over time, you're going to find that you start to have a little bit more shoulder mobility. As you notice here, as I'm walking around with my rib cage like a canister, I'm also able to lift my shoulders up over my head with my ribs still knitted down. So now that we've strengthened the mid-torso, we can start to address the shoulder mobility piece more directly. So we've already opened up the shoulders a little bit by being able to stack the ribcage like a canister. Now we go a little bit further by doing this exercise where we're interlacing the fingers behind the back, opening up the front deltoids as well as the pecs. And then maybe over time, we can also start to lift the arms, finding a deeper stretch there. Now, if interlacing the fingers is not working for you right away, that's totally fine. Simply place the hands at the low back and you're still getting a stretch. Now, all the while, whatever variation you're choosing, we want to keep those ribs knitted down. We want to make sure we're not flaring the ribs because that's not going to give us the mobility that we want. We also want to avoid jutting our chin forward as we're lifting the arms. So now that we've worked on strengthening the mid-back and opening up the shoulders, we can genuinely find more space across the heart space, both physically and energetically. Now, if we're disconnected from our body and the signals that it sends, or if we're disconnected from our innermost thoughts and feelings, then noticing that shift in energy might feel a little elusive at first. So it's a really great thing to have a meditation practice along with the practices we just talked about. I have a video on how to quiet your mind, even if you don't have a formal meditation practice. And once you've been able to quiet the mind, even for just a few moments a day, you can shift into that new postural pattern and start to notice the thoughts and feelings that are coming through your mind and your body. And maybe you start to feel an urge to call up an old friend or to go to that meetup or to express your needs and your vulnerability to someone close to you. And as you go about your day-to-day with this new postural pattern, you may also notice that different experiences are attracted to you, whether that's simply you finding that more people are open and inviting, they have that more open attitude, or whether that's just attracting more opportunities to connect with people more easily. It's also worth noting that if you have habitually been on that one side of the coin of having relationships as kind of a security blanket, is that as you find this new alignment pattern, you might start to find yourself advocating for yourself and your needs a little bit more powerfully. Because when we're working with stacking the ribcage, we're also working with the solar plexus energy, which is related to self-esteem and honoring ourselves. And sometimes when that happens, if we have an old relationship where that hasn't been the dynamic, things can start to stir up. But just know that as you stay true to yourself, these patterns will start to release. Either that old relationship will have a newfound richness, or you'll have a new experience that's drawn into your life. Now, as we talked about at the beginning of this video, each segment of our spine is associated with certain emotional patterns. So the root energy around our hips and our pelvis is associated with our ability to feel secure and abundant. The area around our throat is associated with the ability to find self-expression, authentic self-expression. So if you want to learn more about what head to toe alignment looks like and how to find it, you can check out the Masterclass to Superhuman Level Health. This is going to show you step by step how to find that alignment in your body, what that looks like, so that you can return to a sense of wholeness of who you are. And the link to that class is going to be in the description box. So just know that if you're currently experiencing this perpetual sense of loneliness, it doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. It means that your body is sending a signal that it wants to realign. And as you practice the exercises that we discussed in this video, you're going to find an alignment pattern that supports a more open heart and deeper connections. If you found this video valuable, please give it a like and share it with someone else who might be dealing with some loneliness and might want some additional support. And if you want to learn about more ways to feel amazing in your body and your mind, then feel free to subscribe to this channel. Lots of love, and I'll talk to you soon.